Hi there, Summoners! GuardianE here with another live reaction and first impression video for Fire Emblem Heroes, and today we are getting the reveal of the next Mythic hero that's dropping at the end of the month. So, full disclosure, we already know who it is. It was actually revealed during the FEH channel that they dropped randomly, like last week or so, which completely blindsided me. I wasn't prepared to react to it, and it came out when, like, a couple of days after I got back from Japan, so I was still a little kind of loopy, and so I missed it. Not to make excuses, I don't feel too bad about it, because it was kind of a nothing burger FEH channel, but we did get revealed that the next Mythic hero is going to be the true form of Loki. So we have Loki, Trickster God, but that's not going to stop us from reacting to the trailer today and just taking a look at, again, the banner as a whole, because I don't know what the composition is, and just evaluating everything. So, a new Mythic hero joins the battle. Let's see if the art is still blocked. It is. Look at that fog. Trickster God. Loki. Flying Cleric. Awesome combination. Love to see it. And that gravity and debuff effect. Very nice. Alright, so taking a look at our kit, Supreme Talk 14 Might enables Kanto 1, so it has a built-in Kanto, which is great for a ranged unit, of course, a ranged flyer. She has the Wrathful effect built into the weapon, so it does damage just like other weapons do, despite it being a staff. Has a Killer Slaying effect, so a cooldown of 1, or -1, and then at the start of the turn, if she has at least 25% HP, grants special cooldown count -1 to unit as well. So already getting some cooldown reduction built in from the Killer Slaying effect, and then an additional -1 if she meets the HP threshold at the start of the turn, and then at start of combat if she has at least 25% HP. So it is kind of nice that she has this consistency of the condition of just being an HP threshold. Grants attack res plus X to unit, where X is 6 plus 20% of units res at start of combat. So that's hefty. So she gets +6 by default to attack and res, and then also gets an additional boost to attack and res that scales off of her res at 20%. That's very, very solid, and that's going to help her dish out a good bit of damage and make her a lot more tanky. Unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack, also quite nice as an additional effect, and unit deals damage equal to 20% of units res during combat, which is going to be true damage built into and scaling off of the res in addition to the attack boost she gets that also scales off of her res. Next, you got Return Plus, which is the reposition equivalent for a cleric, providing some healing in addition to the repositioning and movement, which is a fantastic assist, especially for a flying healer. And then we have Glitter of Light for the special 3 cooldown special, although it will be 2 cooldown with the Killer Slaying effect, and then another additional -1 cooldown if Loki does meet the HP threshold of Supreme Talk's effect. So that does mean that with the guaranteed follow-up attack of Supreme Talk, that with an initiation, she will proc Glitter of Light every time, provided that she does, the doubling isn't nullified in some capacity, in addition to if she is not hit with any guard effect in the process either. But Glitter of Light, when special triggers, boosts damage by 45% of foes' res, which is quite significant. If the special is triggered during combat, after combat, inflicts status on target and foes within 2 spaces of target, preventing counterattacks through their next actions. It's a really powerful AoE debuff that allows the rest of your units to come in, sweep the enemy forces, quite literally getting a sweep effect, going in and not having to worry about counterattacks at all, and just piling on the damage. So the next pieces of her kit for her A slot, Attack Res Catch 4 is a match made in heaven. That's going to let her do more damage. That's going to increase her res stat, which again, so much stuff scales off of her res. She really wants to maximize her res stat, and she's going to be able to here. And with the debuffs that she deploys on the enemy throughout her entire kit, it's going to make it pretty easy for her to invoke the full effects of Attack Res Catch 4 with the penalties active on the foe. She's going to get a whole +9 to both of those stats. Dazzling Discord for the B slot. What a skill. So, at start of the turn, for the closest foes within 5 spaces of unit and foes within 2 spaces of those foes, if any foe's res is less than unit's res, inflicts Discord on that foe. Also inflicts attack res -4 on foe during combat, and foe cannot counterattack. So at a base level, you get a debuff to attack and res on the enemy, so you just deal that much more damage. Also, Loki takes less damage, of course reducing the attack on the enemy. And then also the foe can't counterattack, so it has the dazzling effect built in. But aside from that, she gets a debuff, an AoE debuff, that she doesn't have to do anything, no condition other than being within 5 spaces of a foe. So as long as she's within 5 spaces of a foe, she puts out this Discord debuff on the enemy, as well as within 2 spaces of that enemy, which is effectively a stat debuff that doesn't count as just a numerical stat debuff, like just a numerical penalty on the stat line. So it acts as a separate penalty on the enemy. And what it does is it's -2 to all stats, minus an additional up to -3 based around the number of allies that the enemy has around them. So up to -5 to all stats. And again, this stacks with other in-game stat debuffs that you might be reflected in the actual stat line. So it's just a nice little effect. It's a nice little bonus, I think, to the rest of the... I mean, Dazzling Discord at a very base level even is sufficient for what she wants to do, and then the Discord is just kind of gravy on top. Alright, so Divine Deceit for the C-Slot. This is her own unique C-Slot skill. At start of player phase or enemy phase, if any foes in cardinal directions of unit have res less than unit's res plus 5, inflict gravity on those foes. This is a really powerful effect. Gravity, to this day, since its inception, since it was first introduced into the game on day 1, has always been a very powerful effect. And since she is undoubtedly going to have a monster res stat, this is going to allow her to effectively deploy gravity from all the way across the map, almost conditionless. You know, she just has to meet the res check effectively, which she is going to do against the majority of her foes probably. So again, being able to deploy gravity in all cardinal directions is a really, really strong effect. A lot of utility built in there. The next piece, at start of player phase or enemy phase, if any foes within 3 rows or 3 columns centered on unit have res less than unit's res plus 5, inflicts ploy and exposure on those foes through their next action. So this is, again, even wider than a cardinal direction debuff on the enemy, but effectively it neutralizes ploy and exposure. They're kind of interesting choices, but ploy in particular nullifies a lot of the more devastating and annoying effects out there, including grand strategy, treachery, all of those things. So having somebody that can just nullify those at range within 3 rows and 3 columns is very, very good. Now, if the enemy team isn't running any of those particular skills and buffs, then you could say that, oh, well, ploy's a little bit wasted here. But then she also grants exposure, so exposure will at least get some effect and some value out of this portion of Divine Deceit. Exposure, the enemy takes an additional 10 damage during an initiation, so basically it's just boosting more damage that they take effectively as part of the debuff that as a set plus 10. The next piece, after start of turn, affects trigger on player phase or enemy phase if any foes within 3 rows or 3 columns have greater than or equal to 3 bonus effects active, excluding stat bonuses. Neutralize those effects, excludes bonus effects being applied at the same time. So this is a really powerful effect, especially in the current climate where you have so many stacking effects, and like Intelligent Systems has dropped so many additional unique effects and buffs into the game with every new set of heroes. It's not uncommon to have 3 or more bonus effects on the enemy's team active, right? So this will just straight up nullify all of them, and notwithstanding the ploy effect, which will effectively nullify like things like grand strategy and treachery. But those grand strategy and treachery will still count towards the bonus effect count here for this part of the skill, right? I feel like they didn't really even need to add this in here, but just as like a little cherry on top, she gets an additional +5 to attack and res. Again, those are the 2 stats that she really wants to min-max based around her kit, and that she can take the most advantage of. And if there's any penalty effect active, and she has... And you're really pretty spoiled for choice, because there's so many elements of her kit that deploy penalties on the enemy. You're not going to have too difficult of a time in establishing this condition. Getting at least any penalty active on the enemy, then you get an in-combat buff to attack and res. So, but yeah, I think the true form of Loki Trickster God here works really well. There's a lot of synergy in the kit. I think it lends itself to the whole trickster element of her personality too. And there's a lot of built-in utility of like nullifying a lot of annoying effects out there from a distance. You know, being able to play that support role in addition to being able to kind of go in, do a lot of damage, because she just just has a lot of damage scaling off of her res stat, and being able to have that dazzling effect as well, and all of the debuffs on the enemy, and then being able to effectively use the Kanto and the nullification, or I should say the debuff that prevents the enemy's counterattacks, to allow you to just stage an offensive front. Really potent stuff. I dig her kit a lot, and the fact that she is a flying cleric speaks to me in a big way too. So she can weaken many foes at once. Her special is effective against high res and prevents counter attacks. So once again, that so they even modified the in-game art for this trailer with the fog. I can't wait to see the full art. I think it's going to be glorious. I miss Loki. I miss Loki. She's fun. She's a fun character. I enjoy her. I want to see the full design. It looks like she's kind of wearing like a white leotard with a tiny little skirt. In the sprite, at least. So, again, I would like to see the full art here. Okay, so I am going to interject here. I thought this was a good opportunity to cut in, because Loki's full art is actually available through the power of data mining, I'm sure. It is on the FEH wiki, so we do have it here, unadulterated by fog and other random effects that are blocking her gloriousness. But yeah, Mishima Shigeki reprising their role as the artist for Loki. I think they did a fantastic job. Glad that they brought them back for this rendition. The true form of Loki. It would make sense that the original designer would be able to really get hands-on with the actual true form of her, and she looks glorious here, really on full display. I mean, the outfit itself is very eye-catching, very provocative, as you would expect from Loki and her personality. You've got the cleavage window, the opening on the side and at the hips. It does look like she's wearing a form-fitting leotard that just hugs all of those delectable curves. And of course, it has that gold and pearl white color palette that is mirrored with Thor. So you do get that consistency in the designs, which is quite nice. Hers is a little bit more open, a little bit more flowing in general. And then, of course, she does have like the tiny little flap skirt curtain that adds some additional modesty around the thighs and the pelvic area. But she does have a lot of her thighs exposed too, with the very stylish and dramatic thigh-high boots. And then you have the lining to the skirt, which has this really lovely purple that's almost a reflection of the tips of her hair, too. Her hair does have this gradient that kind of goes down into purple towards the tips. And then if we go through, again, her attacking art as well, dramatic flare, striking a pose with her staff, pointing at the enemy while flying back at the same time. Really, really nice. Special art with the whole purple haze effect and the warping, almost a sort of dramatic oil slick effect, but I do like the intensity of the white in the center of the two pools of energy, too. And then... And then her damaged art here, posing with the staff, leaning down a little bit too, giving a pretty enticing view, I've got to say. And it does feel like she's feigning pain a little bit, as you might expect from a Trickster God like Loki. It's questionable as to whether or not she's actually in pain or if she's just pretending to be in pain. She's kind of overselling it with the hand up to her forehead and everything. But she looks damn good, I have to say. Her already scant clothing in tatters and her damaged art. And I think she's using that to her advantage here a little bit. But yeah, so I did just want to interject with the full art, because again, what they did in the trailer is something of a travesty. So I did want to cut in here, but back to our regularly scheduled reaction. Alright, so these heroes also appear in the event. Okay, Otter, that's a fail right out of the gate. Atri, Thor, Nana, okay. Yuri, legendary Yuri, Nerthus, Guinevere. Alright, Vale, Ginnungagap. Oh, Severa. We got Reinhardt. Alright, okay. Okay, so Loki going to be on colorless, obviously, and then alongside her, sharing that color, is going to be legendary Guinevere and Ginnungagap. So a rearmed hero and a legendary hero. So both limited. There's value there. I would say Guinevere's a little bit on the older side. I mean, she's still good. She's still solid. Ginnungagap has a lot of value as a rearmed hero, limited as well. Although, what I will say, maybe a little underwhelming. I think usually the debut color, or the color of the debut hero for Legendary and Mythics, is usually stacked, and I wouldn't necessarily call this stacked. except for Loki, who is always stacked, right? But besides that, well, let's reserve judgment. I mean, let's take a look at some of the other colors here. So on green, you have Otter, who I think is one of the worst characters ever in Fire Emblem. But whatever, he's a decent character. He is. And then you have Atri, and then you have Thor. So it's an interesting combination. I mean, they all have value for sure. And they're all a couple of books past, but still solid in their own right. I would still put that below colorless green, but still a solid showing from that color too. On red, we have legendary Nana, who is a formidable sweeper. We have legendary Yuri, who is a much more powerful and annoying version of Yuri. And then we have Severa, who is pretty darn strong as a new hero. Again, she's not limited, so she is in the regular summon pool, but she is quite powerful and quite recent. So that helps. But I would still probably put red on the same level or a little below green too, just on that basis. Now for blue, we have Nerthuz, we have Vale, and we have Rearmed Reinhardt. Now that's interesting. I would say that's a really powerful color that probably rivals colorless. I would say that blue is like way up there in terms of overall value, all limited characters, rearmed hero in tow, a recent rearmed hero at that. I think arguably blue is at the level of colorless, if not maybe better than colorless, aside from Loki. But yeah, so that's kind of how I would rank the colors. Colorless and blue kind of neck and neck, if not blue a little ahead. And then you have green under that and then red below that. But yeah, an interesting mix of characters. Not the most stacked banner, I think, ever. But Loki kind of carries the banner, I would say. So starting on the 30th of April and going for about 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm actually pretty hyped for Loki. True form Loki, Trickster God. That's pretty exciting to me. I like Loki as a character. I've missed her as a character and as a unit. And I am going to be summoning for her. And on colorless, and she has a great set of skills too. The art... other than the fact that it's obscured in all of the trailers and promotional materials, will presumably not be so in-game, and I have no doubt that she'll look great. But yeah, I will be pulling for her, summoning for her, and alongside her, Guinevere and Gunungagap. I don't have either of them, so it's actually kind of a high-value color for me on this particular banner, so we're going to give it the old college try, see if we can secure her, and if we can secure her early, that would be awesome, but if we get one of the other colorless units on this banner, that would be a pretty nice win too. So let me know in the comments below what you think about Loki, Trickster God, the true form of Loki finally in the game, what you think about the banner as a whole, and if you're going to be summoning for her or any of the other units that are available here. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to leave us a like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more Fire Emblem Heroes content. We thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, let's protect those skies.